If you give me just about 10 minutes here, I'm going to show you a foolproof way to take your marriage or your relationship from the brink of breakup, from divorce, and completely transform it in as little as 2 weeks. And when I say in as little as 2 weeks, it's not from 2 weeks to 2 years. It's 2 weeks, sometimes maybe 3 weeks. Okay, that's really it. If you want to change the entire dynamic, the entire existence, and what this relationship, what this marriage is, and save it from complete and utter doom, this next 10 minutes might be the best 10 minutes or so of your life. Because I'm going to give you a clear roadmap. My name's Dr. Jon Dabach. I've been working with couples and relationships for over a decade now. I consider myself very fortunate, blessed to say that I've helped literally thousands of marriages from heading to divorce court and even pulling some back from them. And most of my work is done these days over Zoom, but with couples still. I would say a good 60-70% of what I do is with two people. But I've learned that if there's one person, so that's about 20 to 30% of my work, if there's one person I'm dealing with who's struggling with their relationship and they're ready to do the work that I tell them, and they're really committed to do these next 4 steps for a period of 2 to 3 weeks without any help from their partner, right? If you're willing to do that, if they're willing to do that and you're listening and you're one of those people, you can regain control of the destiny of your relationship. So let's talk about what these 4 steps are, because I don't want to give you any fluff, anything you don't need to hear. I don't want to make a 40-minute video that you have to skip through on 2x. I'm going to give you really clear, precise things. So the first thing I want you to do is assume that it is entirely in your court. A lot of the times you hear relationships are 50-50, or like this cute phrase that we use, which I've used myself, I'm guilty of using it, is that relationships aren't 50-50, they're 100-100. Let's assume for a second that it's 100 and 0. That your partner is going to give you virtually nothing back, and that they're not required to give you anything back. By the way, this works for men and women. It works for straight and gay couples, or whatever else it is with all the different things. I will admit that 95% of what I do is with heterosexual straight couples, usually in a very committed and more likely a marriage, but it does work on all kinds of relationships. So the first part of assuming that you have control is crucial, because a lot of the times when I see people doing things for the relationship, they say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm getting nothing back. Yeah, that's the way it's going to be for a while. If you're in a relationship that's broken, you're not going to get anything back. You're going to be giving and giving and giving. And you know what? That's healthy, not just for your partner to receive for a minute. It's healthy for you to learn what it means to love again. Let's think about the nature of love for a second. People don't understand this when it comes to two people. I swear, you throw sex in there and suddenly everything's confusing. It's not that complicated. Love is consistent from objects to platonic relationships to family relationships and all the way through love. I'm going to use a couple examples here. So let's say you love your dog, or let's say you love your car, right? If you love your dog, what kind of relationship do you have with the dog? Is it one where you leave the dog outside all day, put some kibble out and say, okay, hope to see you tomorrow? No. If you love your car, is it one of those cars that gets so dirty that someone can write "wash me" with their finger on the back window? No. When you love something or someone, you give them attention, you give them care, and you give them everything they need to thrive, everything they need or it needs to be the best version of itself. So are you getting anything back from the car other than being its owner? Is the dog really helping you do your taxes or cook and clean or nothing? No. What is that beautiful pet giving you? It's giving you a vessel, something that can receive your love. Okay, that's really all that it is. And listen, I'm a dog owner. I don't want to, make you think that it's not a good thing. That's a great thing. That's what children are. Children don't give you anything back but love. in the best of situations, oftentimes they give you not even that most of the time, right? And I have 4 kids myself, I should know. They give you nothing back but love, and you give them everything. You give them your time, your money, your health, your sleep, your everything you give to them, your sanity sometimes. And what do you get back? Almost nothing. The nature of love is to give. That is the nature of love. That is the essence of what it is. Now, I happen to be a somewhat religious guy. I was a rabbi for a while. So I believe that's, from God. But even if you're an atheist or agnostic, it makes sense on a psychological level. There is no reason, if it's really just about survival of the fittest and Darwinism is the only rule, if it's really just that, the idea of having children and giving of yourself, your time, your sweat, and it doesn't make any sense. It would make more sense to have somebody else raise your kids, but we don't do that. So our minds psychologically, if you don't believe in the spiritual connection, cut off this concept of survival for a second, and we introduce this idea of love to justify what? Selflessness. Love and selflessness go hand in hand. Now, you need boundaries, and we're not going to talk about that in this video because that's not what this is about. If you're trying to save your relationship, let's put boundaries just on the back burner. I'm not going to say forget about it. It's important, and there's probably other videos on my channel or other people's channel that you can watch about boundaries. But for now, for this 2-week experiment, we're focusing on generosity for the sake of generosity. So if you do this right, if your focus is, let me give to this person, let's assume, I'm going to get a little macabre here for a second. Let's assume you're going to die in 3 weeks, right? Assume that you are not going to be on this earth anymore for 3 weeks, and you can't go on vacations and you can't go spend, jack up all your credit cards. But the way you treat people in the next 3 weeks is how you will be remembered. That generosity that you would do in that situation is what you should be shooting for with your wife or your husband. That's the goal. So you're going to treat them well, right? And they're not going to get anything in return. Because again, it's about generosity. And what will happen is 2 things. One, they're going to notice, right? And there's 3 other elements to this that we're going to go into. But one, they're going to notice. And usually they'll be like, what's going on? Just ignore any kind of questions that you have an ulterior motive. You're just trying to help the relationship. You're just trying to make it better. So if they can accuse you all they want, but at the end of the day, if that's your root goal and it's not to manipulate or anything toxic, you're good, because you know the truth is that you're really just trying to be good. You're just trying to give, right? And so they'll notice, and eventually you'll break down that wall and they'll start to reciprocate. It won't happen right away. I'm going to tell you that right now. It won't happen right away, but it will happen in time. The second thing that's going to happen, and this will probably happen quicker if you're doing it right, is you will fall in love with the person all over again. If you're giving knowing you're not getting anything back, and you're giving because you want to see them smile and you want to see them happy, not happy in a way where they say thank you, just happy from a distance. And oh my God, they're happy and that makes me happy. When you're doing that, you will fall in love with the person again. 99% of the time. There is always that 1% chance that you're just over it, in which case this will just get you to that realization quicker. But the vast majority, almost all the time, you will fall deeper in love with the person because that is the nature of love. It's the selflessness. Okay, so that's step 1. Now, in order to do step 1 effectively, you need to have another source of joy. Right? You have to have another source of validation. It could be a therapist like myself, right? It could be a coach. It could be a friend. It could be prayer. It could be meditation or yoga, but you're not going to get what you normally are expecting to fuel that energy to give from your partner. So know that you're going to have to get it from another source. Just want to warn you, but that's okay because it's temporary. Okay. It's not forever. It's just for a little bit. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to take a piece of paper, could be like a notepad like this, right? Write a line down the middle, just like this, right? And on one side, I want you to write grateful for. And I want you to list everything you're grateful for in this marriage, in this relationship, okay? This is, I am grateful for this, or thank you, world, for this. This is what I want you to do, right? On this side, I want you to see all the things you're grateful for. And on the other side of the paper, I want you to write thank you in advance for, and write the type of relationship you want to have. This practice of gratitude does a couple things. One, when you're grateful, it is antithetical to depression, to misery. It's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to simultaneously experience gratitude and depression. When you look at all the things that you're grateful for in your world and you really feel it internally, you naturally become happy. And happiness, not looks, not health, not wisdom, happiness is the most attractive quality in anybody. That's why some of the biggest spiritual leaders, regardless of how, unflattering to the eye they may be, when you see them smile and they're full of joy, they're magnetic. So you, in this practice of just reminding yourself every day, because that's what you're going to do. You can make the list and then you're going to look at it and read it every day, right? Once in the morning, once at night, preferably. You look at that list and you think about all the things you're grateful for. You will naturally experience joy. That joy will make you just happier, which is a good thing in itself, but it'll make you magnetically attractive to the people around you. Maybe not your spouse at first, but maybe you have kids who will notice it. And when they start gravitating towards you, that will affect your spouse or people at work or people on the street even. How many times do you get a cup of coffee and you say, you know what, you have a great day to the barista. You are wonderful. That comes from gratitude. You want to be so full of gratitude that it spills out of you and starts affecting others. That's the first thing that's going to happen with this. The second thing is, as you are grateful, you'll start noticing things from the other side of the list where you say thank you in advance for, start moving over to the grateful things. Things that you want to happen will start happening, and you'll connect it back to that sense of being grateful for what you have. And if you believe in the law of attraction, that's kind of the core of it. But even if you don't, doesn't matter. It's going to happen anyway. If you're grateful, good things happen to you because people want to be around people who are grateful and happy and joyous. That's number two. So the first is accepting that you are responsible, right, for the relationship. And the second is gratitude. The third one focuses on how to be generous to your partner. Okay. The first two are really just mindset shifts. You're not doing anything for the relationship. You're just changing your mentality that it's your responsibility to fix it. And you're being joyous and happy and grateful. So technically it's all internal so far. This is where we start getting external, right? So this is the core of it. You want to start being generous in ways that you want to kind of cross mediums. So you want to say compliments. You want to express gratitude directly. So if your partner does the laundry, make sure you say thank you. But you also, and this is key, you need to start giving them gifts or love notes or doing things for them when you're not directly there to receive the gratitude. A lot of people, they say, well, can't I just send a compliment via text message? And I say, sure, you can, but that defeats the purpose of this exercise. The reason it's important you're not there is because if there's zero chance at you getting something in return, if there's zero chance of reciprocity, then the person feels like, oh my God, this is just good for goodness sake. Right? If I give my wife a gift and I hand her a gift and I say, look what I got you, there's an expectation on her part to say, oh, I love it. You're so thoughtful. And there's that pressure. And if you're in a relationship that's headed towards divorce, that pressure's too much. So if you leave the gift on the bed and say, even if you don't like it, I was just thinking of you, the gift receipt's in the box if you want to return it, right? For example, the person's going to open it and they're going to go, this is so sweet, right? Now, there is an element where they'll say this is desperate, right? It depends on where you are, right? If you've tried it before. Some people might call this love bombing. It's not, it is love bombing in the sense that you're really trying to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. But love bombing has a poor connotation because usually people love bomb in an effort to then manipulate. You're not going to manipulate. You're trying to change the nature of the relationship. That's very, very different. You're trying to make it a healthy relationship. And when you're doing that, I say love bombing is good. When you're doing it in order to manipulate, no, you can go to hell. Like, that's horrible, right? You don't want to manipulate people in a relationship, become codependent. That's ridiculous. But you want to give and give and give so they realize, oh my gosh, what am I saying no to? What am I close? If it can be like this, if our marriage can be like this, I'm crazy to stop. I'm crazy to stop trying. You want to do that, okay? So compliments, instead of texting, write a note. Post-it notes are great. I love you. You're beautiful. You know, I always love that dress on you. Just wanted to let you know. Stick the Post-it note on the bathroom mirror or on the steering wheel of the person's car. They can't text you back right away because there's no Post-it text. They could text you thank you, sure, but that's a lot of effort for them. And it's not expected like it is in a text message, right? As soon as you send a text, depending on how you send text, you might be able to see if they've even seen it. This is for you. I'm giving you a compliment because I want you to feel good. I'm not expecting anything in return. And it does two things. Again, all these things do two things, right? The first thing is it teaches you to be detached from needing it to be something for you. It's generosity for generosity's sake. It deepens the sense of love. And the second thing is it takes the pressure off of them and they start realizing this is just about making me feel good. That's great. Okay. Now the fourth thing, and you could do this with gifts too. You can get a little bundt cake or favorite candy, or if he's into cars, you can get him a little miniature car just thinking of you. You can leave little gifts. Could be with acts of service. You can wash the dishes. Don't say anything about it. Just do good for them. Just do good in their life. It's amazing how impactful this is. If you do it with the right mentality, this changes the game. Right? Even if you do just these three things in 2 weeks, it will completely drastically change everything. The fourth one really cements it though. Okay. The fourth one is I want you to journal every night. Doesn't have to be long. Could be 3 sentences. You don't like to write, type it up. You could type it on notes. You could type it on a Google Doc. You don't like to write or type. Your English isn't your first language. Record it on a voice memo. But every night, before you go to bed or the very next morning when you wake up, make it a specific time. Don't say I'll do it when I get around to it. Make it at the same time every day. Journal what you did. Journal how it made you feel, and journal if you've noticed any reaction in your partner. Okay, that's it. What you did, how it made you feel, if you noticed any reaction. That's all you have to do. Sometimes your entry will be 3 sentences long. Sometimes you'll write a page. How you feel is just as important, though, to the reaction, if not more. Because guess what? You're either going to fall in love with them and they'll feel it. People, they can sniff it out. And they'll be able to connect with you because you're open and you're generous. Or you might realize there's something really broken. Maybe there was an affair you never got over, and embracing this sense of generosity will kind of bring all the non-negotiable, really hard things to the surface and force you to deal with them with someone like a therapist or, a priest or a minister or whatever, or a friend even, or it'll make you realize the relationship really is over. And closure is valuable, by the way, if that's what it is. So those are the 4 things. You take complete acceptance that it's your responsibility. You do the gratitude worksheet and you read it every night. And then you give generously, acts of service, gifts, compliments, gratitude, right? Without expecting anything in return. And you journal the process. Do that for 2 weeks. If you're not a different person, if your relationship is not a completely different relationship, then you have some serious, deep underlying issues and you do need mental health assistance, because that has never failed. It has never failed to completely turn the relationship upside down in one way or the other. Most of the time for the positive, right? The vast majority. That is my challenge to you. That is my advice to you. Out of working with thousands of couples, out of doing this for over a decade, I've never seen this not work. The problem is people don't do it. They don't want to do it. And I can't tell couples to do this. If I say you should both do this, it feels like homework. But if I can tell one person to do this and the other person doesn't realize that's homework and they're doing this because of their own volition, that they want to do it, it does work. I hope this was helpful. My name is Dr. Jon Dabach. Don't forget to like and follow for more relationship advice.